The Eurozone may be getting closer to a multi-billion euro rescue package for troubled Greece. Here was his thoughts on what we can expect from a finalized package is Julian Callow. He's chief European economist at Barclays Capital. Good afternoon to you, Julian. We do know that we'll get at least a framework out of these meetings that are underway in Brussels, ruling on whether Greece is doing enough in terms of cutting expenses at home. What can we expect? What are you listening in for over the next 2 days of meetings?
Well, as you say, there's likely to be some kind of framework announced. Details are still rather sketchy, and what is not at all clear is to what extent there is widespread agreement among the different European capitals right now for this kind of framework to be agreed. So we'll be paying particular attention to the numbers, of course, and the conditions that are attached. I'd have thought what we get as a minimum is some form of guarantees that there will be either governments themselves directly or government-backed institutions such as Germany's KfW being prepared to step in and buy the Greek debt that is coming up for refinancing and the new issues that will be coming along in particularly heavy supply during April and May. That's a kind of minimum, short of outright absolute commitment to purchase. We're likely to get some form of guarantee, I would say, and we'd expect it to be quite broad-based, really. Not just Germany, not just France, which are the countries that have got the biggest bank exposure to Greece, but extending really to most euro area countries.
Right. Well, we do know that the German and the French finance ministers said no dollar amount, no euro amount is going to be pledged here in terms of aid. That wasn't truly viewed as a disappointment in the marketplace like you would have expected perhaps a week or two ago.
I think there needs to be a distinction drawn really between measures that help liquidity and provide some support for the financing by Greece and actual capital transfers to really bail out Greece. In the short term, it's very clear that governments actually want to provide that degree of cushion and assurance in order that Greece can issue what is a very large amount of debt to come through in April and May. A lot of very heavy refinancing still needed. Beyond that, though, it's going to be much more up to Greece to continue with its fiscal consolidation plans, because we're not talking about Germany and France here undertaking a major bailout of Greece by which they would undertake some very major unilateral transfers there. It's more a question of providing some support at what is a very difficult time, and that's why I think there are still going to be issues out there really beyond April and May, but first we need to get through this very crucial refinancing period that's ahead of us.
Well, I want to ask you about some of those issues. I was reading through numbers today that I found somewhat staggering here. Half of Portugal's debt is owned by banks in Spain, $165 billion. A third of Spain's debt is held in Germany, $748 billion. Another quarter by French banks. You were just talking about Greek debt and who holds that. So besides the fiscal issues, there is still a private sector exposure and perhaps contagion. I mean, how concerned are you about that?
Well, exactly. I mean, I think those are very good numbers that you're mentioning there. Really, this is a very Europe-wide problem, and that helps to explain why we are getting some kind of response coming out of Berlin, coming out of Paris. In fact, the French banks, according to the BIS numbers, have much greater exposure to Greece than, in fact, do the German banks. But the German banks still have extremely large exposure. Then, as you say, German banks also have very large exposure to Spain and also some exposure to Portugal. So things are very integrated, which is why we need to get a Europe-wide solution to this to provide some reassurance to the financial markets at this difficult time.